Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to find the best price and availability for thousands of games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're all heroes and we're going to be going around the village to different spots like the museum or the docks, and we're going to be trying to gather items, and we're going to be guiding villagers to where they want to go and hopefully defeating all sorts of monsters like Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, and the Mummy, and Dracula, and all sorts of things like that. Today we're taking a look at Horrified. This is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Horrified, each player is going to select a hero that will have a certain amount of actions, and most of them have a special ability that will help you out. You can either randomly give these out or strategically pick them. Now there's actually 6 different monsters that you can select to play from through the game. The first game it suggests the creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula, but the different ones have different complexities on how they work, and also you can change the difficulty as how many monsters you go against. Easy is 2. If you want to be really hard, you could have 3 different monsters, but each of them work in a different way. Some of them have like little mini games, so they all sort of attack in a different way, special abilities, and there's certain ways to actually, find or, advance through the monster or actually defeat them. And each monster will be represented by one of these miniatures and moving around the board. Now in this game we're going to play with Dracula and Creature from the Black Lagoon. These are the 2 monsters they recommend playing your first game with. We'll talk about how you sort of get through the monster and how you defeat them in just a moment. So here we have this set up with the board. The crypt is where the Dracula starts, Lagoon is where the creature starts. And we have 2 players here that are playing, and they start in specific spots as well. There's item tokens that are randomly placed, 12 of them. Over the course of the game, different items will be coming out. They'll be coming out of a draw bag like this, and they'll go in the specific locations that they say. These items are going to help you defeat monsters. They're also going to help you defend against them as well. Well, to win, you got to defeat both monsters. However, there's multiple ways to lose. Over the course of the game, the terror track will be moving up as you get hit by monsters, and different things will cause this to go down. If it ever gets to here, you've lost the game. Also, each turn is going to have a hero do something, and then the monsters will have a turn, and then it will keep going through other players and things like that. Each monster phase, one of these cards is going to come out, and if this deck ever runs out and you can't draw anything, that's the other way to lose. So it's sort of like a time section of the game versus a tactics side. Now when it's a player's turn, they can take as many actions as their hero says, in this case 4. Each player also starts with a perk card, which tells you when you can play it, and this says play during any hero phase, which means I can play it on my turn or anybody else's turn. This allows the current player to take 2 additional actions, but it's a one-time use. So let's say it's the archaeologist's turn, they have those 4 actions. A lot of times you're going to be moving, so moving to any lit path is 1 action, so we go 1. Picking up items in a location, as many as that's there is an action, so we can just pick these 2 items up. That's going to be 2, and I can just keep moving like 3 and 4. So that could be a simple turn, for example. Now, why would he do this? Well, over the course of the next few turns, let's say he gets to the camp, he's picked up some more items, and he's going to use it to try to sort of solve the creature from the Black Lagoon by spending any amount of these. So a yellow, red, or blue. You can spend one of those for an action to move the boat to try to find the hidden lair. Now that tile is specific, only comes out when you're playing against the creature. Now the boat starts here, and we're trying to get this boat all the way through to find the lair. Now what we can do is we can just, for an action, we can just go on that camp and discard. We discarded a blue item, it's going to go all the way to the blue. Now if we discarded a red next, it would only go here. But here we could discard a blue or a yellow for another action. If we go blue, we go here, but if we go yellow, we could go all the way here, and it doesn't matter what the number is, and then we could discard another blue. That would take 3 actions, and we could already get it all the way here. Now once we get it to the lair, then we can try to defeat them, and we'd have to go where the creature is, and then discard one of each of the colors to defeat him, and then that monster would come off the board and no longer be around, and you're halfway to winning the game. Then after the hero's turn, we go to the monster's turn. You'd flip over the top card from the monster deck. You'd first add a certain amount of items from this bag, however many's here, and it tells you which locations to place them. And then an event can happen. Sometimes it's adding villagers to the place, the board. Other times it's having certain monsters do things. In this case, it says place Renfield at the docks. So we take Renfield, his name's at the bottom there, and at the top it tells you where he wants to go. So he's at the docks, and he wants to get all the way to the hospital. Which, by the way, he's got to go all the way around here and get here. Now, if we're able to get them to the hospital, we will get another one of those perk cards, which gives us another very powerful ability. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the actions you can take when it's your turn, let's say it's this player's turn, is they can guide a villager. They can move a villager from an adjacent space onto where they are, and for another action, they can move it from where they are to somewhere else, and we could get them to the hospital. If you get them where they want to go, again, it comes off the board, and you get one of those perk cards. But the other important thing about those villagers is you're trying to keep them safe, because after that event happens, certain monsters are going to activate. Now, this shows the Dracula icon, so Dracula's going to move up to 2 and then roll 2 dice. Now the monsters always move towards the closest person. Now let's just say this is how the board looked. It would go 1, and it would go this way 2. Even though the hero's down there, it's 3 to them and 2 to here. And this is tough because the villagers don't have any way to defend themselves. So it said Dracula rolls 2 dice. If he rolls a hit on either one of them, this villager is defeated. It comes off the board, and the terror track would move up. And again, if it gets here, you lose. Now, if he rolled this instead, that monster would activate its special ability. Like in this case, place the current player's hero in Dracula's space. So whoever's turn it was would get sucked into where Dracula is and then possibly be hit. And the creature of the Black Lagoon says, hey, you move the boat 1 step backwards. So if you found the lair, this thing can move backwards and you're gonna have to find the lair again, or it just moves it back in time. However, if the hero was here and the villager's here, and this guy had to move 2, he'd go 1, and it's equal, they'll always go towards one of the people. Now this is good because you can actually defend yourself. Because if Dracula were to roll 2 dice and even hit you even just once, you can discard any items that you may have, 1 for each hit, in order to not be defeated. Because remember, if he defeats you, that track is moving, the terror track's moving up towards the top of the board, which can make you lose the game. But for each hit, let's say we have 2 of them, I'd have to discard any 2 items to not get hit and defeated. So these not only help you sort of defeat monsters, but they also give you defense as well. Now the last thing I'll show you is sometimes you'll see this icon with the flame, it's Frenzied. The monster with the lowest number will start as Frenzied. Certain cards will make it go to the next one. But this means that this monster is going to attack more often than the other one, but sometimes it'll attack multiple times. Like here, Dracula attacked, and the Frenzied monster attack, which is in this case Dracula again, it would go through another attack phase. After the monsters have completely attacked, then it just goes to the next hero's turn in clockwise order. And one of the other actions you can do is your special action, like this one can pick up items from an adjacent space. So you can pick these ones up for one action, then maybe pick this one up for a second action. So you can use these. And another thing is if you're in a spot with somebody else, you can share. So you could essentially give or take items to or from anybody in here. It doesn't even have to be that player's turn. If there were 2 other people here, you could have them share things with each other, and sometimes that's useful. Now for Dracula, you're trying to crush his 4 different coffins. Now you'll go to where they are, and you have to discard 1 or more items that add up to 6 or more. In this case, we have 7. You would discard these, and this coffin would be crushed. So that one we crushed, we would put it right in the graveyard because that's where it came from. Once you've crushed all 4 of those, you must go into Dracula's space and do the same thing, but in this case with the yellow items, which a lot of times are the stake, which is very thematic, and you would defeat Dracula. That's pretty much how the game's played. You either lose if you run out of time of the monster deck, or get all the way to the bottom of the terror track, and you win by defeating all the monsters. Now let's look at some of the other monsters. The Wolfman, you basically go to the laboratory and you would essentially place a blue item of the number 3 on the 3. You basically have to do that for a 1, 2, 3 and a 1, 2, 3. And at that point you've discovered the cure, and then you can go to the Wolfman space and defeat him by discarding multiple, any number of red items that are 6 or more when you add them together. And his special ability is it bites each person where where the Wolfman is, and each of them will get defeated. With the Invisible Man, you have to go to these different locations, get items, and then go to the precinct and place that evidence there. For example, this is the mansion. We could place any evidence from the mansion there. We do that for all 5 of these locations, and then to defeat them, you go where the Invisible Man is, and you discard any number of red items that add to 9 or more. And if his special ability is he moves 2 spaces to the closest villager. And remember, they don't have defense, so that's a tough one. Now with the mummy, you're going to have some scarabs that are placed on here, and if you go to the museum, you can, for an action, you can discard a yellow item, and the number of that item tells you how many sort of movements you have here. So we have 4. So you're trying to line up these numbers with these numbers here. So maybe you say I go 1, 2, 3, 4. You move it like that, and you're trying to get this 2 over here with some actions. Now, the special ability for the mummy is it flips the lowest one face down. So now we know that that 1 is face down, but over the course of the game, multiples can be done. You have to either remember where they are, or for an action, you can flip one of them back up. Once you get them all in the correct order, you go to the mummy space and discard any amount of red items that equal or 9 or more. Now with Frankenstein and the Bride, they each act as 1 monster, and they each have their own dials. Now, if you go to Frankenstein's space, you discard one of the yellow items, it's a yellow dial, to move it that many here. If you ever get it all the way to the 11, it will flip over and you have his face. Same with her, you can go where she is and discard blue ones and you move up that amount. If you ever get to the 8, you can flip her up and you have her face. Now, when these two monsters meet, because they're going to be moving towards each other, and the special ability actually moves the bride one space towards Frankenstein, if they ever meet, then normally what will happen is you would increase the terror track. Then you'd put Frankenstein in the graveyard and the bride to the dungeon. However, if both of these are face up when they meet, then that's how you defeat them. All right, well, there's Horrified. This is going to obviously appeal to many people with the intellectual property or IP that is here with all the different monsters. Now, this is a game that's going to be in Target, so a lot of people will walk in and see this Horrified, see all the monsters and go, ooh, I really like this. And this is going to draw them right into this. So it's definitely a positive with that sort of intellectual property there. This essentially is a good, simple, family weight cooperative game. I mean, if you're looking for something that's easily accessible, that has enough going on, I mean, it has just enough going on to be good for gamers, but it's still accessible for new players. And I think that's a great sweet spot here for this game. I would say from a weight standpoint, it's definitely, I'd say, lighter than Pandemic, maybe about the weight of, say, Forbidden Desert, which is sort of Pandemic's medium-sized brother, or sibling, I should say. So it's about that depth, I'd say, in between Forbidden Desert and Pandemic. I like that you have multiple monsters to choose from, and they all have different ways to beat them. Sort of like, you know, the Mummy has that mini game where you're moving the scarabs around, and the Bride and Frankenstein, you're trying to keep them away until the dials are finished, things like that. The character abilities, they're always fun to have. Grabbing stuff from adjacent places, moving somewhere else, you know, all those different things just give the game a little bit more flavor. It makes each player feel a little bit different, that they're good at things. Saving the villagers is cool for perks. Now, it's easier said than done because they typically have to move to the other side of the board, and it's not as easy to do so. With more players, it's easier to move them, but man, they don't have defense, so sometimes they'll easily get defeated. But those perk cards are really big, so it's another, not only you're trying to defend them, but it does give you that perk, which are usually very good cards that can change the game. I like how you're sort of like trying to attract monsters to you instead of the villagers. You know, they're going to go towards you if it's tied, but you can sort of like run in knowing that that monster might come because you have items to discard, and I like that. The items are used to do a lot of things and defeat monsters, but they're also defense for you, and I like that. It's really important when you're trying to manage that terror track. It's like, ooh, I'll go in and I have some defense. I'll get there and maybe they'll hit me. You know, so I like that aspect. Sharing items is cool. Like, oh, let's go to this spot. There's 3 of us here. Wow, it's my turn. Actually, you 2 get to share something. I don't even have to be the one to share. I think that's cool because you're going to be different people are good at different things. Some people are going to be better at moving. You give them an item to go somewhere else, stuff like that. The game is easily expandable. I'm hoping to see sort of more monster packs come out where they have just newer ones of all different ranges, even easy, medium, and hard. I'd like to see some even more difficult monsters, or not difficult, but more complex monsters where things are even more of a mini game than, say, the Mummy. So overall, I enjoyed the game. I think if you're looking for that sort of gateway level cooperative experience, that cooperative is interesting because even though it's sort of a little bit more going on than most gateway games, since it's a cooperative game and you're teaching people, it can be a little bit more going on and still be considered a gateway. But I think if you're looking for that entry-level game that has enough for gamers, this is a good one if you like the theme and you like the IP and things like that. On the negative side, the cards are definitely very thin. I wouldn't say I've had problems with them bending, but as you shuffle them, you play with them, I would have liked to have felt thicker cards there. This does not take out the problems that many people have with co-ops. I don't have this problem. It's called sort of the alpha player or quarterbacking, where someone can sort of like take over and just tell people what to do because everything is open information. So if you don't like that about co-ops, this does not solve that, does not address it. If you don't like that style of play, then this isn't going to be the game for you. I would have liked to have a player aid showing how many of each color item there is for each location. Because there's sometimes where it's like, ooh, you know what? Let's wait till next round because a card might come up and that item that we're waiting for might be placed right there and I'm on the way that way and it might come out. But if you know that there's no yellow item in this next location, it can't ever be there, then maybe you'd make some different decisions. So I think it would give the game greater depth if there was some sort of player aid showing you how many items of each color actually can come to any of the locations. That would give the game more depth there. I also prefer these style of co-op games with 2 or 3 players. With more than that, too much happens between each turn, and by the time it gets back to you, the thing that you planned 4 turns ago is just blown out of the water. So I still prefer these style games with 2 or 3 players. I would not play with 4 or 5, but I'd probably prefer other ones in that player range for a co-op game. But overall, I really liked it. I liked it. I enjoyed the experience. It was fun. There was just enough going on to keep gamers interested, and I think newbies are going to love it too, and that's Horrified. Did you miss the Game Topper 2.0 Kickstarter? Have no fear. It's not too late to get in on the ultimate gaming accessory. Convert your table into a high-quality gaming table with a fully portable Game Topper system and take advantage of some of the best 3mm premium gaming mats in the industry. New styles, new sizes, and new accessories can be yours. Upgrade every game you play by late backing now at GameToppersLLC.com.